Doctor Who The Early Adventures. Domain of the Voord.
The Voord will hunt you down and you will all be harvested.
Big Finish. We love stories.
Hello, welcome YouTubers and Doctor Who fanatics. Once again to another Big Finish audio review. Today I'll be taking a look at the first early adventures to start off this range, which is A Domain of the Voord. So yes, I'll be doing my normal procedure where I go for the cover art, read the blurb, look inside like the booklet and the discs, and then say my overall thoughts and opinions on the story. So first, let's check out the cover art. So we have the cover art, we have the 50th anniversary logo, which will soon be changed into, will be a complete silver Doctor Who logo. William Russell and Caroline Ford in Domain of the Voord by Andrew Smith, who's written quite a few companion chronicles, if I know. And for the cover art, we have the Doctor, we have Ian Chesterton, we have Susan, we have a Voord, we have a much more bigger Voord in their hierarchy. And then we have Hydra in the background, which is like a very watery planet. Then we have the Early Adventures, to say that it is in the Early Adventures range. We have Doctor Who's Domain of the Voord, 1.1. And we turn it around, 120 minutes approx, and then here is the blurb. There we go. Anyway, Domain of the Voord, written by Andrew Smith, directed by Kent Bedley. The Doctor, Susan, Ian and Barbara land on the planet Hydra, where Admiral Jonas Keane leads a vast flotilla of ships trying to elude the vicious race that has invaded and occupied their world. But his ships are being picked off one by one, vessels and crews dragged underwater by an unseen foe. The time travellers find themselves pitched into battle with the Voord, the ruthless enemy that they have encountered on the planet Marinus. As they take the fight to the heart of their territory, now controlled by the Voord, the stakes get higher. First they lose the TARDIS, then they lose that which they hold most dear. And that's the only start to their troubles. In the capital Bedora City, they will learn the truth of what it means to be a Voord, and the truth is horrifying. So there is the cast. So if you open it up, we have the booklet and then we have the disc, and I like what they do here, but they still make it feel like 60s. So yeah, episode 1 and disc 1 features part 1, The Floating City, part 2, Return to Terror. I like what they do here. And episode 3, which is Behind the Mask. And then part 4 is Fight Back. So yeah, really made it like unique to William Hartnell's era, which I'm glad they did, because they might not have done that. I was expecting that they wouldn't, but they did. So yeah, they really made it feel like the 60s era, these early adventures, season 1. Then we have the producer's notes, behind the scenes, writer's notes, Doctor Who magazine, the next episode, which of course will be reviewed. I've listened to it, nothing more will be said. Then the credits, and then again, if you want to flip it over, that's your choice. You can have the old logo, or the just the 60s logo. But if you know me, I keep it to this one. So my overall thoughts and opinions on Domain of the Voord. Is it an absolute fantastic story to really kickstart the early adventures, or is it a dull one? Now with Domain of the Voord, I've seen it vary with the ratings. The highest I've seen it rated is a 9 out of 10, and the lowest I've seen it 6 out of 10, so again that is good because it's in positive ratings, nowhere 5 or under, which is good. But this is my own thoughts on the story. So of course, let's get to the positives of the story. Part 1 is absolutely brilliant, really built up with tension. The Voord seemed to get in it right on the bat actually, and there are some little references to, well, loads of references to Keys of Marinus, because this is actually its sequel. And if the Voord worked, when Keys of Marinus happened, they would have been the first monster to reappear in Doctor Who, but of course they were never known as brilliant monsters, but perhaps this story turns them around. So yeah, part 1 is absolutely fantastic, with the Voord kick-starting with absolute terrifyingness, and they're very advanced race when you actually look at them, really. But I'll get to the Voord in a minute. But yeah, absolute build-up. The Voord attack Bedora City quite quickly, actually, but just enough time to get character development into the other characters in Bedora City. So if they attack like straight away, we'd have known absolutely nothing about the supporting characters. But yeah, it was about like halfway through part 1, or perhaps 3/4, I would say. But yeah, also the music is absolutely spine-chilling and creepy. Matches with the Voord's history very well, because the Voord's history, or yeah, pretty much is quite terrifying and quite grim, actually, which again I'll get to soon. So yeah, part 1 was absolutely fantastic. If we get to part 2, I say it slows down a little bit, because after that major battle which happened in part 1, and something big happened in part 1, really big. And you can see if all the other characters have pure hatred with the Voord of what have they done, pretty much. But yeah, part 2, it sort of slugs down a little bit, quite tedious, really. One of the Voords get captured, he threatens by the word harvest. Wonder what harvest means. Well, it's not very nice. Then we go to part 3, behind the mask. We actually know how the Voord really are, what they really look like, and what is the mask, what is behind it. Well, that's for you to find out, because it's actually, again, quite grim. And then part 4 is really where they fight back with the Voord. And then we see even more darker stuff with the Voord, even more. But then, I would say the first bit of it and the last bit of it definitely show the key spots for this story, while the middle is a little bit tedious, especially part 2. Now again, for more positives, again, I've said about the soundtrack is absolutely brilliant. Doesn't really spark 60s, the soundtrack, to me. Only a little bit, but still, it's still absolutely brilliant. Now we go to the Voord themselves. Again, they are much better in this one than the Keys of Marinus, because they're more threatening. And we can see how the Voord are actually now a corrupt race, and they used to be a very noble race, the Voord, just like humans. There was a really nice scene with this, where one of the Voord was tied up, and he said they teach their children to be good and all that. So the Voord, back in the time, were actually very good, a very good, honourable, noble race. But then leaders forged up, and all they had in their mind was conquering and taking territories, pretty much. An advanced and psychological race they were, and we learn a lot more about them, that they used to be a very noble race, but now they've gone into a dark descent, when new leaders have rised and completely turned the Voord completely the opposite direction to make them completely corrupt race. Him right there to have a good example, the Overlord. And yeah, that's pretty much how the Voord got corrupt, because they used to be a noble race, but leaders forged up, and now they are completely corrupted. So yeah, that was brilliant. Very good back history of the Voord. I've said a little bit about the Voord, but still not enough to give their I've still keep them with secrets. What does harvest mean? They keep using the word harvest. And their dark past as well. They have an even darker past, which I have not said as well, which is really grim. But that's for you to find out. But I found the back history not really anything spoilerish, really. There's something intriguing to know. But then we come to negatives, unfortunately. And the negatives, yeah, I said part 2 is rather tedious. But then we come to the characters, well, what they actually did, really. Now, for example, William Russell did his own character. He did the Doctor, and he did the narration. And Caroline Ford also did Susan, Barbara, and the narration. And there's all these speaking going on, and sometimes you don't really know which character's speaking, because Caroline Ford sounds like Susan, and Barbara with the same voice. It gets rather confusing, but of course at the end she said Barbara, so you know it's Barbara. But yeah, the narration is sort of all over the place, really. It's something to get used to, really. It's quite hard to process what's actually going on, because people are not used to this new style. But I didn't mind it. I sort of got into it quite easily, really, but some people may struggle with this. Like William Russell, for example, again, he's quite good at the first Doctor. Some of his scenes do mimic the Doctor very well, but some of them not really. But still, he's does a great job. I wish they got another person to do the first Doctor impression, because there's someone else who did Big Finish who was very good with the first Doctor impression, but wish he came back. But yeah, I said this before, that the early Adventures first Doctor impression isn't good, while the second one by Fraser Hines is absolutely brilliant. So now we come to overall ratings of Domain of the Voord. Yes, it is an absolute brilliant story, building up tension and a very dark history to the Voord. Also, a brilliant start to the early adventures. I would possibly give this a 7.5 out of 10. It was actually a very good story, and I did enjoy it. I think that's a good rating for this. Again, I am doing an overview of the early adventures when they all come out. That'll be late December. I think it'll be the 23rd of December. That will. Stay tuned for that. Ratings will change because, of course, I'm going to listen to it again, and usually it does improve while you listen to something to a second time, because you do find new positives and new negatives. So ratings always change when you listen to it a second or more times. So thank you very much for watching the review of Domain of the Voord. Next review, I have no idea, so you can check my about section. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you in my next video. So take care and have a good one.
Doctor Who, The Early Adventures.
What's that?
The flotilla alarm. It's another attack.
It's the same every time.
Sonar, report.
Domain of the Voord.
The Voord!
The Voord? Here?
You know the Voord.